Okay, I've been thinking for some time about Simon Odell's video about new money. And I thought in the past, how could we get money back onto, a non-fiat basis? How could we base it on something like the gold standard? But I don't want to just base our currency on the gold standard, because it seems nonsensical to me that the amount of currency, the amount of value that an economy might have would be based on however much gold it owns. That doesn't make sense to me. So it seemed to me pretty unworkable, but I think in combination with Simon's idea that there's something interesting here to talk about. First of all, when we're talking about monetary policy, it's an interesting thing is that a person's material wealth can be measured in terms of their ability to accrue value in monetary terms. But this is just like any game. I mean, with a given game, if you are winning, if you have a high score in Monopoly, I can tell you what the rules were and what this means. Basically, you're succeeding at running your virtual competitors in that game out of business. If you're playing Risk, another board game, if you're winning at that, I know that you've been conquering countries and holding continents and things like this. But in an economic system, it's still made out of rules, human-made rules, just like any other game would be. But we don't really know what leads to that score. And the part of the problem is that if the game is about exploiting other people, it could be that the only way you get more money is by exploiting people. That's what that would mean. To have a high score in this game might mean that. I don't necessarily think so, but the point is that we don't know what winning at the rules, this infinitely, well, not infinitely, but very complex economic system, we don't know what the rules are really motivating us to do in this game of the economy. And it's possible that it's motivating us to exploit. I mean, in the sense that our economic system has a lot of elements of Ponzi and pyramid schemes, and this is really an exploitation where an early mover can profit and someone is left holding the bag. So that may or may not be a problem, but this is how the analysis has to work. We have to be open-minded to that maybe our economic system is built this way. Now, Simon has an interesting idea. His idea is you basically, instead of money, you start off with votes, and you're really putting your votes into a particular means of production. So, for example, if you need groceries, then you'd have a grocery vote that you would put in a particular grocer. That grocer would then be your grocer, and you could go down and get your groceries there. And I think part of the problem is that this works for things that you want regularly, basically commodities. It doesn't necessarily work for buying incidental items. But combining this with the idea of putting currency on some sort of material basis, basically, if you had a system like that, I think what you would find is, okay, you've given your vote to that grocery, and what you would get in return for your vote is, say, $100 a month. And they would be dollars, a currency issued by that grocery, and they'd be redeemable for groceries at that store. Okay, and you put one of your votes into the water system, it'd be like $100 a month you would get from that particular water system currency that you would give back to that. You would end up giving it back to that water provider to give you the water. But here's where incidental purchases come in. I think maybe you could have a system where all dollars were equivalent. A dollar of honey is the same as a dollar of gasoline. You could give anybody that dollar and they would probably accept it, unless there was a shortage. If there was a shortage of honey, for example, then the honey producer would stop taking just any dollar and would only take honey dollars, because that's what the honey dollar means. The honey dollar means you can get $1 worth of honey. If there's a shortage, people would start having to get honey dollars to buy honey. And the value of the dollar could be fairly well controlled, right? Because through all of this is not an inflation. Honey still costs $1. It just might be harder to get the honey dollars. And on the black market, or maybe even a gray market, or maybe even just a regular market, some people might be trading, 2 gas dollars for one honey dollar, because honey is in demand. But when you're actually spending the dollar, you would still get the same amount of honey. So the whole idea of inflation changes. Instead of goods becoming more expensive, what you have is this internal currency exchange rate that might motivate some people to trade multiple of one kind of dollar for the kind of dollar that there's a shortage in. And when there was no shortage, I don't think there would be a problem. I have a feeling that if you had a system like this, that probably grocers would by default accept each other's dollars, and it could all be made to work out. If people are interested in this, it's kind of an esoteric, it's the kind of thing that would have to happen far in the future. It might not happen at all. I think the purpose is more as a thought experiment for us to get a hold of how we're thinking about money. And if you think this kind of system's unworkable, then I think the valuable part of presenting it is for you to tell me why it's unworkable, and we can get some understanding about how we think this stuff should work. So, thanks.